I'm here with Tim Ziegler, one of the performers in You Can't Take It With You, which is showing now at the Soulpepper Theatre. Welcome, Tim.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
So tell me a little bit about You Can't Take It With You and your character.
Well, You Can't Take It With You is it's a really great play. It's sort of from this era in the States. There were a whole lot of comedies. I actually did one a couple years ago called Harvey. And there are these comedies that are extraordinarily funny and extraordinarily well written, but they also pack a certain punch to them, which is to say, I guess there's a great message behind these plays. And Can't Take It With You is, well, a lot like that. It's a story of, I guess you'd call it a love story, but yeah, I won't give too much of it away. But it's a really great. It's a really great play, and my character in it is Mr. Henderson, the tax collector, and he's a guy who takes his job very seriously, and he could be accused of power tripping a little bit. He relishes his job. He makes a call to the house of the Sycamores, which is the main sort of family. Makes a call to them rather late in the day, and sort of suggests, there's going to be hell to pay if the taxes aren't paid, and anyway.
He goes through an interesting little journey. Again, without giving too much away, tell me a bit about the progress of your character. What kind of conclusions do you think he comes to?
Well, he walks in, and I think presumably, he expects people to shake in their boots at the sight of the tax collector. The tax collector shows up at the door, and everybody runs in terror. And it's, "Yes, sir, no, sir, I'm so sorry, sir, how may I please you, sir?" And I guess his journey here is he walks in expecting that, and he gets Grandpa, played by Eric Peterson, sort of nobody really cares about taxes, and nobody really knows what the significance behind the tax man is, and so his journey is one of sort of he goes from thinking he has a lot of power to sort of, I guess, frustration at the fact that he realizes that he has no power in this house anyway.
The piece is a very heartfelt one. It's kind of on the outside, very warm and cuddly, but there are strange elements of almost libertarianism at the heart of it, which is kind of a strangely relevant topic at the moment, given the popularity of the Tea Party in the South, as well as kind of the equivalents to the left who are advocating an almost total absence of government control. How do you feel this play fits into today's society? Do you think there are themes that it presents that just haven't changed, or do you think we're kind of going on a roller coaster and just happens to have come back at the right time?
We were actually just talking about this in the dressing room. I think it was yesterday, because these ideals. I mean, as a sort of relevant to what we were just talking about, Grandpa doesn't believe in taxes. And you could say they're a very, I guess you'd call it, as you'd say, libertarian or, left wing or, free household. But at the same time, one who doesn't believe in taxes and wants the government to stop meddling in their lives, that's a very, not conservative, but I guess Republican or Tea Party thing. I haven't really thought about sort of that aspect of it and how that's relevant. I think the story is more relevant because it talks about whether it's more beneficial, whether success is defined by making a lot of money or whether success is defined by leading a life that you enjoy. I think that's the message that really stands out right now. In terms of the political stuff, I have a hard time with it. And it's not that I haven't sort of thought about it, it's that I haven't figured it out, because as I say, it could swing either way. It could go both right wing or left wing.
There's also an aspect, at least within the play and specifically relating to its characters, there's a lot of material relating to the relationships between parents and children, and again, it's very heartfelt. The respective lovebirds in the story are both very close to their elders and their parents, but that also in a way causes some of the some of the friction of the story. It's no great secret that your father, Joseph Ziegler, is directing the piece, which must offer some interesting parallels. Can you tell me a little bit about the experience of working under him, and if you've felt any direct parallels between the material of the piece and your experience working on it?
This is the second time I've worked with my father. He directed me in Harvey at the Shaw Festival 2 years ago, and it's really not. It's not actually that big a thing. He treats me like an actor, and I treat him like a director. And at the same time, it's never the elephant in the room. It's a note will be given, and he'll say, son Tim, can you cross to the stage left, or whatever the note is. I also trust him a great deal. I think he's a good director, and if I thought he was a crap director, then that might change it a little bit. But no, I trust him, and the relationship is it's fine. Sometimes I'll get a ride home with him. Sometimes I'll get a ride to work, and that's a huge benefit. But in terms of actually how it affects the work, it doesn't really affect the work very much. Parallels in the story,
Well, I don't mean to pose a leading question, but given that there is so much material about the relationships between parents and children, do you feel as though you've made any discoveries in your own relationship by working on this piece?
I think the discoveries have been mostly sort of related to the craft as an actor and the play itself, and it's really all about the play and all about the performing aspect of it, I guess. When we walk out, we'll think about it, of course, and we'll discuss it around the table. Go over for dinner, and we'll invariably the topic will come up, as it would with anybody that you were doing a show with. But of course, but just off the top of my head, it hasn't really affected our relationship as father and son very much. No, I wouldn't say so. Well,
it sounds like it's a healthy relationship if you can go in, day out, and not let the emotion of any kind of artistic experience translate into home life.
Yeah, we have a pretty good relationship.
Yeah. One of the things that's probably most notable about the show is the sheer size of the cast. It is a lot of people on stage, and great fun to watch. But at the same time, the mechanics of it must often be quite challenging. Tell me, as a performer, what are some of the kind of the pros and cons of being one cog in such a large machine?
Oh, there's a lot of pros in it. It's never mind that it's a talented cast. It's a talented cast, but there's something cool about seeing a lot of people on a stage at the same time. I don't really know why, but there's something kind of neat about it. And this is sort of a play. It's interesting. They were doing that. I heard this the other day. They were trying to do this on Broadway a couple years ago, another Broadway revival. But it ultimately got canned because of the star aspect of it. No stars wanted to come and play such a quote-unquote small part. There aren't really, with the possible exception of Eric Peterson's character, Grandpa, there aren't really any, I guess, quote-unquote stars in the play. So it really is sort of an ensemble piece, which I guess leads to one of the cons is, we were talking about it backstage, talking about this play is rife with opportunities to accidentally miss entrances, or, you take a step to the left at the wrong time and the entire scene goes straight down the tube. So it's not really a con. I guess it keeps everything exciting, if nothing else, but it requires a little bit more touch and directorial skill, I guess. But that's more for the director to worry about than it is for me.
Soulpepper is really well known for having a core group of players who, in the case of your father, rotate between on stage and behind the scenes, and have developed an intimate working relationship. And then there are shows like this where there are not outsiders, but people who are less less frequently involved in Soulpepper shows, yourself included.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel there's any kind of catch-up to be done there? Is there, or does that keep it fresh?
Keep it fresh as in for them?
For you, just kind of being launched into this world that is so familiar to them and not, maybe not as familiar to yourself. Does that is that exhilarating anyway, or do you find that to be a challenge?
Yeah, it's exhilarating. It's at first it was really daunting because I walked into the room and everybody knew each other and everybody would make sort of smart jokes to each other and joke around like really good friends were, because of course they're all really good friends because they've worked together for some of them for 30 years. Mm-hmm. And then myself and Brian Bisson, who was and Sabrin, and there's a few more people who are at Soulpepper for the first time, but we sort of walk in and we're the new guys. It's that's pretty normal as far as I think starting a show. You walk into a room, you usually haven't worked with too many of those people before, but this was different because I walked into a room where I didn't know anybody, but they all seemed to know each other. So, but that, as it always does, that ended. That aspect of it, and we're now, at least I think we all get along pretty well.
Yeah, glad to hear it. Are you tempted yourself to direct?
I'd love to. Yeah.
Do you have any dream projects?
A good script, and that's a pretty open-ended answer. Just give me a good script, and I'll be happy to work on it in any capacity.
Do you think you'd prefer to chew on something new, or do you have like a favorite playwright you'd want to tackle?
Well, I was raised on Shakespeare. I'd love to tackle Shakespeare. I mean, I love Ibsen. I love all the classics, Shaw and Arthur Miller, and et cetera, Thornton Wilder, all of them.
What's one of the last original Canadian pieces you've seen that you've loved?
Well, Scorched certainly stands out. Yeah. Love Scorched. Oh, of course. What the hell's it called? One that was done here.
Kim's
Convenience.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Kim's Convenience was a great one. In particular because I'm sure everybody knows this, but it involves such a part of society that I guess what you'd call white Canada, quote unquote, or the mainstream theater audiences aren't necessarily confronted with every day. So that was really neat. And Scorched was sort of similar in that respect, I think.
Yeah. Kim's had a really interesting central theme of sacrifice, which I think it's easy to look at that as a play about immigrants, but it's I think more about sacrifice than anything, which I think one of the reasons it probably connected with such a large audience, that there was more to it than just the novel story of a convenience store, but
absolutely
a parent's love again. And what's next for you after this?
Sunshine Boys here at Soulpepper, which takes to maybe September, and then auditioning.
There you go. That's perpetual life of an actor.
The great thing about working for 6 months in a row is it affords you maybe 2 months of complacency in terms of not having to necessarily stress about finding work, but it all starts up again, and Joe Jobs and all that fun stuff.
I look forward to giving you my drink order. Thanks so much for your time, Tim.
Thank you very much.